to the Monday, December 10th edition of the Clemson Dubcast. Snow day in Clemson. Well, sort of snow day. All the schools are out, at least the public schools. I think Clemson's on a several hour delay. Hope everybody is safe out there on the roads. Clemson football getting back into the swing Wednesday when they return to the practice fields to begin full-scale preparations for their Cotton Bowl semifinal game against Notre Dame on December 29th. The football staff, though, of course, hitting the recruiting trail really hard. And you can find in today's Monday Morning Recruiting Insider by Paul Strelo that Dabo, Jeff Scott, and Brandon Streeter taking a cross-country flight to California to visit with some notable names. The Monday Insider by Paul is always a must-read. We had somebody over the weekend emailed and said that they started subscribing to Tiger Illustrated after hearing the Dubcast, so always appreciate the new subscribers to the website. I think we've had quite a few who have joined up after hearing the podcast. So welcome aboard and really appreciate that. Title sponsor of the Clemson Dubcast, Parham Smith and Archinhold Law Firm in Greenville. Very happy to have them aboard. Couldn't do it without them. Blake Smith and Brooke Archinhold, both Clemson grads, both huge fans. Forte of their firm is medical negligence. They represent patients and their family members in medical negligence actions. They also handle all sorts of other complex personal injury litigation. I can vouch for them. About 10 years ago, a family member had a pretty serious medical situation with one of the local hospitals. Went to Blake Smith, and he very quickly and authoritatively gave us some great advice, and we were very thankful for that. Parham Smith and Archinhold offers free consultations. Give them a call, 864-990-4581 or parhamlaw.com. Also sponsoring the Dubcast is the Abernathy Boutique Hotel, a short Trevor Lawrence throw from Death Valley. Man, it is a favorite for the ESPN folks who come into town, who stay there various times of the year. Also, man, it is booked up and packed to the gills for home football weekends. It has really caught on for people who want to come in and stay. Also, Taps Bar and Cafe, a really cool spot to go hang out during the week. If you want to grab a drink with some friends, some of you professors out there who want to wind down after work, laid-back alternative to some of the more boisterous college bars in downtown Clemson. So go check them out if you already haven't. Got some really good beers on tap, including my favorite, the Hugie Street IPA. So check them out online at theabernathy.com. All right, let's get to our conversation with JKJ, former star high school football player in the Greenville area who signed with Clemson, the team he grew up loving, lifelong dream to play for the Tigers. Unfortunately, was not able to play a down of football. JK is going to get into that. Thanks to Blake Smith of Parham Smith and Archinhold for opening up his doors. We actually recorded this on Saturday. JK lives in Greenville. I, of course, live in the Clemson area. So this was a good meeting spot for us to go have some good conversation at the law offices of Parham Smith and Archinhold. All right, here we go. Enjoy. All right, here we are with JKJ. Man, thanks for joining us.
Larry, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, you and I communicate from time to time, and I know you're a listener, and a mutual friend a few months ago suggested that you come on. So I'm glad that it's coming to fruition. All right, so tell everybody what you're up to these days.
So these days I have my own commercial brokerage company, the J Company. We do commercial and land brokerage. We also do commercial development.
And how long have you been doing that?
We've been in commercial real estate since I got out of school. I went to work for a group of guys that used to play at Clemson that had started a real estate company, and we just kind of evolved, and we got into developing some commercial real estate, and that's where we are now.
Is that Leighton Cubbage?
Yep, Leighton Cubbage and Steve Mudge.
So, all right, we want to rewind to the beginning, at least in terms of what Clemson fans remember. Enrolled early at Clemson in January of 2009. You went to Christ Church Episcopal School, Shrine Bowl participant, number 3 offensive tackle in the nation, number 139 player in the nation overall by ESPN.com, listed as co-starter at right tackle entering fall camp of 2009, and then ended up not playing a down because of back issues. I'm sure you've told this story plenty, but would you mind sort of rehashing it for our listeners, if you don't mind?
Sure. So, where do you want me to start?
We'll go back to your high school. I want to talk about your recruitment too, but we'll just start with the most important, like when the back problem started. Was it when you were weightlifting at Clemson?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was doing power cleans and just immediately had a real sharp pain shoot all the way down my leg, and didn't think it would be anything too serious, but it ended up being more serious than I thought, and had some epidurals and ended up needing to have 2 surgeries in about 3 months' time, and that's what led me to retire, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So, what was after the first surgery? What was the complication? Like, what went wrong after that?
Well, after the first surgery, I was working on recovering and getting back out there. And then about 2 months or 2.5 months later, I just had a recurrence of the injury or problem with the sciatic nerve that created the foot drop that I had and just the pain and nerve damage in my leg that required just a second surgery that we hadn't anticipated.
And then you also had a case of mono during that fall?
I did have mono and lost weight, with mono. It was a really tough 3 months semester. It was really brutal and challenging, especially coming in and dreaming of playing at Clemson my whole life, and finally, being on the cusp of living out a childhood dream, and then you face this adversity that is out of your control. You're out of your control, and prevents you from being able to do that. And, trying to handle that at 18 was, a challenge for me and definitely a learning experience.
How much weight did you lose?
I think I lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Just from mono. And then also not lifting heavy weights. I mean, it's amazing how quickly that mass just sheds off of you when you're not training full time. So this is 2009. This is obviously Dabo's first full season. They're in the midst of winning the first Atlantic Division title, and then going to, I guess it was Tampa to play Georgia Tech in the ACC championship. And was it a couple of days after the ACC championship when you decided that you were going to hang it up? So I'd had my second surgery, I think, the day before the ACC championship, and just remember being laid up and just watching the guys and just, heartbroken and reflecting on the season. And I think that follow-up week with my neurosurgeon was when it was kind of presented to me that, you could go back and play. You'll probably be 70%. I can't promise that your nerve will come back. And if you do go back and play, there's a high risk of, you permanently damaging, that nerve. Because I'd had foot drop, which meant, like a paralysis in my foot. So it wasn't full strength and would kind of drag and trip. And so there was concerns of that becoming permanent, and, cane was mentioned, for the rest of your life and stuff like that, which was really overwhelming. And so it was a real splash of cold water and just reality check of, what's important. Obviously I love football and Clemson football more than anything, and this is what I dreamed of. And, immediate reaction is I'll be fine. I'll get through it. But,
I always knew I wanted to have a family one day, and I knew I wanted to be able to play with my kids and have a normal, healthy life as much as I could. And so that's, what led us ultimately to that decision.
So just to be clear, the neurosurgeon told you that if you continued with football, you were risking that foot drop becoming a permanent thing and walking with a cane for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah. It was, it was a lot of life change in a short amount of time, going from coming out of spring listed as a co-starter or right tackle to 3 months later having to hang up the cleats forever. I mean, you think about life after football, but at 18, you don't think it's going to be that season or, right before that season. So it was sobering. It was challenging. It was difficult. But it was one of the best learning experiences of my life, and I couldn't have picked a better program to be at, to go through that with, than Coach Swinney and Brad Scott and Jeff Scott and just all, Coach Batson and Danny Poole and all those guys just wrapping their arms around me and loving me and helping me, figure it out, because, that stage of life, you're just worried about football and getting to class on time and study hall and all that. And Milt Lauder was phenomenal for me. Everybody, I mean, I can't, name all the people that really just put their arms around me and loved me through it. And to me, that's if I have kids, my boys have the opportunity to go play somewhere, I want them to go play at a program where they love the men for their heart and not their talent, because football does end for everybody, and you don't know if it'll be freshman year or after Hall of Fame career like Brian Dawkins. But in college, at least, if you can be at a great program with people that genuinely love you and care about you, that's just an ideal, perfect situation.
Brad Scott was obviously the offensive line coach at the time. What do you remember their, reaction / advice to you was at the time when you were sort of mulling all that over?
Well, I mean, first off, they're extremely supportive, loving, and we all were disappointed, not with I say my decision, but the decision. So, I mean, it was just, they're hurting for me, but they loved me and supported me and did everything they could to help me figure out, what's next for me. So I just can't thank them enough for how they cared for me through that. Because it very easily could have been, put them in the other pasture, and forget about them. But that's not Clemson, and that's not those coaches, and that's not who they are, and it's not just a recruiting pitch or something that sounds good to mamas in the living room.
Had you ever had any back issues previous to that?
I hadn't.
Wow. So was there anything looking back where you said, oh, I shouldn't have lifted this way, or I did too much, or anything like that?
I mean, I guess you could always go back and say, what if? But, you can't really do that. I didn't do anything that was egregious, or, we weren't doing anything that, was out of the norm or not. It was just one of those things that happened. So, I played full speed. I worked out full speed. I lifted full speed. I don't think you can play the game or work out without full speed intensity and expect greatness. So I wouldn't change anything. I could always say, what if it was a lighter weight? But I wasn't trying to lift the world at the time either. It was just a regular lifting set. It wasn't a max or anything like that.
So 9 years later, how are you doing? Do you have any residual issues?
Yeah, so I'm really great. My back goes out about once a year, but other than that, it's really been minimal. I'm limited in exercises that I can do. I can't do some of the stuff I did in college, but that's okay. But I'm great. I'm thankful for where I am, and I have a wonderful wife that I love dearly, and 2 little boys that are under the age of 2 and not so little, but I get to play with them, and every time that I get to play with them, I'm reminded that it all worked out, and the Lord had a plan for me, and I'm just really thankful, and being in a career that I really love and am passionate about and enjoy the competition, and being forced to find that career path and that love outside of football at an early point in my career of football was a real blessing, and not having to be 30 or 25 and try to figure out that love after football. So, the Lord's worked it out perfectly. Of course, I would love to have just mauled people for the Tigers and opened up holes and given Taj time, in the pocket. And but that's my path at Clemson was different than most guys.
So you were a big time recruit early on. Was it like your freshman year when coaches started dropping by your school?
Yeah, Coach Fulmer, Coach Brooks, and Coach Chavis, who were all at Tennessee at the time, came through my freshman year, and that's kind of when life changed, I guess, as a recruit. It was a really neat experience.
And you grew up going to Clemson games, right?
I did, yep. My granddad's been in IPTAY for over 60 years and sat in the same seats, and now I'm taking my boys to sit in the same seats. And, the only time I missed a Clemson home game was when recruiting started. But I grew up like, any other Clemson fans, kid, just, having to see the Tigers run down the hill, getting chills every time you see the buses pull around, just, sitting there dreaming of wearing, the orange pants and the paw on your helmet. That's what I daydreamed about every time I was playing pickup, in the yard, in the neighborhood, or out at tailgates, throwing the ball around.
So did you commit when Tommy Bowden was there?
I did. I committed my sophomore year to Coach Bowden.
Okay, which would have been, was that like 06, 07, somewhere around there?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so October 13th, 2008, I guess 4 days after they lose at Wake Forest. I think their record is like 3-3, and the top 10 preseason ranking is long forgotten. The fans are upset, and Tommy ends up walking, and then this receivers coach named Dabo Swinney is promoted to interim coach. Put everybody in your shoes that day, and what is going through your mind on your and you were already planning on enrolling early, correct?
Yeah, I had taken summer classes at the local technical college because my school was on a trimester, so that I could graduate early to enroll in January. And so I was graduating really in first week in November because we were on that trimester system. And so, when Coach Bowden resigned October 13th that morning, I had maybe like 2 or 3 weeks left before I graduated. And I had to shut down recruiting for the last 2 years. So I hadn't talked to any other schools or anything like that. So, as soon as he resigned, I immediately had schools calling and coaches on the way. Georgia called immediately while the press conference was going on.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was the coach?
It was Coach Rick.
Coach Rick called you.
And I think Coach Searles was the line coach. Mm-hmm. And Coach Searles said, I'm on the way up to see you. And, it's like, whoa, wait, hold on. Let me just digest, the fact that Coach Bowden isn't there anymore. But the cool thing about that is I really hadn't spent much time with Coach Swinney at all during my recruitment. And the summer going into that season, I got baptized, and his two boys, Drew and Will, were getting baptized that day. And it just so happened that Coach Swinney they were right in front of me. So I talked to Coach Swinney for about 2 hours that day and really got to know him and his heart and the kind of man that he is. And so I was a huge Coach Swinney fan from the moment that we talked. So when they named him interim, it was like, well, man, I love Coach Swinney and really hope he gets this job. But if he doesn't get the job, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if they bring in a coach that doesn't have the same, morals or values that I do. Is that really where I want to spend my time and energy, or do I want to go play somewhere for, a coach that I know is going to be there? And so that kind of played out throughout those last couple weeks, and Georgia made a really hard push, and I really liked Georgia. But I just knew Clemson was a place for me, and I told Coach Swinney the week of the Carolina game, I'm here, and you're going to get this job, and, this is what we're going to be. And wore a Dabo for head coach shirt to the Carolina game. And, he got the job after he beat Carolina that day, and the rest is history.
You still have that shirt?
I do.
And so was it did you make it up yourself, or did you buy it? Where'd you get it?
No, actually a girl that went to high school with me was kind enough to draw it and do the artistic stuff on it. So, she drew it up for me.
And it just said Dabo for head coach.
Yeah, it was Dabo for head coach. I think it had tiger paws on the sleeves and a Bible verse that Coach Swinney used a lot on the sleeve. It was great. But, the Dandy dozen, we're still so close and tightly bonded. And it's just, you really want to, believe all these coaches that preach, what they really care about. But, the proof's in the pudding with Coach Swinney and just kind of us as a class, because, those guys feel like, your blood brothers. So close with Mal, obviously, and Taj and Hot Rod and Quandon and Spencer and all the guys. It's a unique bond that we have that we all carry with us, and, are proud to carry that banner of, being the 12 that jumped in, because it was tough when Coach Bowden resigned. It was really, schools came like sharks trying to pick everybody off.
So you guys, before you even signed with Clemson in that Dandy Dozen class, you feel like you had a tight bond even before that?
I feel like the bond was really forged when Coach Bowden resigned and Coach Swinney was the interim. And we all believed in Coach Swinney and the man that he was and the vision that he had. And we're completely bought into that. But at the same time, you're waiting for the school to make a decision on who the head coach is going to be. And all these other schools are applying intense pressure to pick you off. And so you're trying to ride that out together. And, there wasn't many of us. So it was kind of, we all were all in. We were 100% for Coach Swinney. But, it's also like we need the school to be 100% for Coach Swinney. Because if they go a different direction with nobody that we've built a relationship with or believe in, what does that do for us? We don't, So you have that. We all were going through a unique situation together that really built a close bond.
Were most of y'all there for that South Carolina game?
Yeah, I think pretty much all of us were there. I know other schools had really tried to get us to go visit their school that day because it was, big rivalry day, big game day atmospheres for schools. But we kind of knew or could sense that a lot depended on that game. We, as a recruit, you could kind of sense like if this is going to be it and we're going to have a shot for Coach Swinney to be the head coach, he needs to win this game. So, it was really special.
All right, so y'all are communicating a lot there in that October, late October, then November. Is it just texts, calls, like
the Dandy Dozen?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's texts, it's phone calls. I mean it's it's venting. It's hey, man, this school's putting a lot of pressure on me. This coach, is selling this. I'm stressed. So obviously text is a popular way of communication. So a lot of text, but also just a lot of phone calls because not too many people could relate to what we were going through. Mainly the in-state guys for sure. I remember me, High Rod, and Malachi. And at the same time, Carolina had the class with Gilmore.
Holloman.
Yeah, Holloman. And so, those guys are in our ears at, stuff too. But that was never a temptation for me personally. But I know that some other guys, they were coming after really hard.
Was it Holloman who decommitted from Clemson?
Yes.
Gilmore was never. Clemson was after him, but he had never committed, I don't think.
No, he was always Carolina, and Sam Montgomery was in that class, but he ended up going to LSU.
And then Papa lost and decommitted.
Yep.
And went to LSU.
Yep.
And so you're not only talking to the guys who ultimately signed, but you're talking to the guys.
Oh, and Jeffrey Alshon.
That's right. Yeah. So you're communicating with them too.
Well, yeah, and I mean, so the Shrine Bowl and Under Armour game is after Coach Swinney's already been coach. So, there's no questions there, but, you're with those guys playing with them on the same team. So, you're hearing stuff. And for me, it wasn't really a question because I was done coming in January. But some of the guys that were doing signing day, you're trying to not let anybody get in their ear and just hold on to them.
And so, it's Georgia and then some other schools as well who were coming after you, or just Georgia?
There was other schools, but for me, really the only other school that I was interested in that checked my criteria was Georgia. So, and I knew I had to make a decision quick, so I didn't really spend much time in, enjoying it or, flirting with too many. Certainly had a bunch of calls and a bunch of coaches come to schools, but Georgia was really the only one that I invested serious time in.
And so if Dabo wouldn't have gotten the job, you would have probably ended up at Georgia.
I think that's true. There's always, it's hard to say because you don't know who Clemson would have brought in a head coach. And Clemson had always been my dream school. So, there's always that. But, so I don't know. That's tough to go back and say. And
then Taj was later in the game.
Yep.
Dabo, I guess that was January.
Yep. He was, I think they got in Taj this year at the Army All-American game.
Okay.
And Bryce McNeil was there, and Malachi was out there. I think Hot Rod played out there. So that's when those guys, I think that's when Taj really got into Clemson.
When did you first start communicating with him?
As soon as he started coming around school in the Army game, they sent me Taj's number, and we started talking. And we had some, common themes of, I think he was originally committed to Tennessee, and Tennessee was first, to recruit me. So, but also being just a tackle and, that quarterback bond and just saying, come on, man, I got your blind side. Coach Swinney is the man. We're going to win championships here. We need you on our team, and I'll take care of you. And, just stuff like that. And, I love Taj, and we're close to this day. And, still kind of same thing. He's in real estate now with, Layton and them. And now we talk about real estate and bouncing ideas off each other and life, just life stuff. And it's just really special. And special group of guys, and everybody's come through there, has really been special. And Coach Swinney attracts really cool people. And, I mean, he's just, for me, there is, he's just one of the best men that I've ever met. His integrity speaks for itself, and no matter how good you think he is, or if you think he's putting on a show, I promise you, he's 10 times the man that you think he is, or that you think that he's trying to project himself as. He really is, and I love him. And Kathleen, she's just amazing, and I really do love all the guys like their sons, and it's hard to really comprehend how they can do that with every single guy, but they do it. And Coach has never lost his roots and always stayed true to who he is. So,
business owners out there, if you own a business that accepts credit cards, you need to listen up. Tandem Payment, based right here in the upstate, run by Clemson folks, is changing the face of payment processing, quickly becoming the most cost-effective solution for all small businesses. Tandem's program saves you up to 90% on processing charges, and it gives your customers what they love most, choices. This is not some crazy introductory offer. Tandem's technology allows business owners to offset their credit card processing costs by applying a small customer service charge to each sale they make. If you want to know more, visit tandempayment.com today. Former Tiger Hot Rod McDowell works over there at Tandem Payment. They handle all their business and customer service face-to-face. So give them a call, 864-672-1570. If you're tired of spending an arm and a leg on all those credit card processing fees. Back to the Dandy Dozen for a moment. Dabo tells the story of going up to the Hampton Roads area to Taj's house, and he says, I got Chip Kelly over here hanging in a tree, and Jim Tressel's over here, and then I think maybe, I don't know if Tennessee was still in it, but whatever. Basically, he had nothing to sell, right? He had no track record, and it was just him, his word. Is that with that class is what makes it so special and tightly knit? How small it was, but also how each one of you guys were taking a leap of faith?
I think 100%. I think we all believed Coach Swinney, and we believed his dream and his vision and his heart, and believed that he was going to do it. And Clemson's coming off a tough season. And they hadn't won an ACC since 91, I think. And you have other schools, touting new facilities, giving you the dream now, if you will. But Coach Swinney is the best salesman in the country. I mean, you put him in any industry, he's going to be the top salesman in the country or whatever it is. But the huge part of that is he's so genuine. And he's so just determined for greatness, and not in like a hokey way. He's going to be great, and he's going to be excellent just because that's who he is, and that's what he wants to be about. So you see that as a recruit, and it's like, I believe in you. I know this to be true. I know that's the man that you are. I know that if I go play for you, that we're going to achieve that and build it. It might not be the easiest road, but I want to be in Coach Swinney's ship. I want to be in the trenches with Coach Swinney. if I'm going to go to war, I want to go to war with Coach Swinney. Mainly because we know that he loves us. And we know that he's going to do the right things the right way, and we're going to win the right way. But, yeah, the 12 of us, I mean, you know, you had to look past the now and look towards the future and know that it wasn't going to be an overnight deal.
Do all y'all have like a text chain or something?
I mean, we do have our groups, you know, that we get together, and a lot, you know, some of the guys are still in the Greenville area. So we usually get together and hang out, or at the games we'll, you know, reconnect and hang out. But it's been in social media, you keep up with everybody. Mm-hmm. It's, you know.
Dabo was, for a couple of years, was enormously successful in commercial real estate. Do you have you picked his brain at all? Like, do y'all talk about that ever?
Yeah, he was extremely successful. I always, I mean, you know, he laid out the blueprint for success for us for 4 years, you know, for culture, company, organization, how you run things, and just life principles. So specifically, no, I haven't picked his brain about real estate, but, you know, he'll remind you when he starts throwing out triple net and cap rates and, you know, kind of stuff. It's like, oh, okay, you know, coach, you know, knows what he's talking about. But, you know, really every day in business, I pull from stuff that he taught us at Clemson. How he runs his program, you know, how he manages his day to day, the disciplines that he practiced and that he instilled in us. And, you know, that's really why if you go to Clemson, you know, football success is there. But I think the thing that we've all come to realize in business is, I mean, we got first-rate corporate training for 4 years on how a top program, company culture should be run by the best in the business. And so that's, you know, that has just paid me a million times over, just with the lessons that he taught us that I wasn't smart enough to realize that I was learning at the time. But as, you know, you're in the working world now, all these things come flooding back to you, and you're like, man, yeah, I knew coach knew what he was doing, but he really knows his stuff, and he's really great at building people and programs and winning culture.
So you stayed on as a student assistant with the football team for how long?
Yeah, so I think I graduated in 3 years or something like that. And my last year was the year we won the ACC against Virginia Tech.
Okay.
In 2011.
Yeah.
So that was my last hurrah.
And you were with the team the whole time?
Yeah, I was with them, really student coaching that last year.
Okay.
Kind of after my injury, I needed to figure out who I was without football, and coach and the staff and Milt all really kind of helped me sit back, take a breath, and try to understand life without football, and then what is it that I love and I'm passionate about and want to go win. And, you know, now that I don't have football.
And so how did you come to the point of saying, okay, real estate is that thing that, or did you get to that point then?
Yeah, I certainly didn't get to that point then. It was really a long, challenging journey that kind of just evolved. And I'd always been interested in real estate and wanted to do real estate, but real estate is so broad and there's so many opportunities and pathways, you know, and then it's like, well, how do I narrow it down? And so my first job with Leighton and them was really great experience, exposed me to a lot of successful people. And that's kind of where I kind of narrowed it to commercial. And then we got into the aspects of, retail development, and I just enjoy selling commercial properties too. So it's been an evolution for me.
And you went to law school for a year as well?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't want to be an attorney. Part of that was that process for me. Always wanted to be in development. I just figured, well, I'll go to law school until I figure out where I want to go in real estate, and knew a law degree would be great to have, but ended up going to work with Leighton and them.
All right, so Paul Journey has become a really focal part of that football program in helping set up the football players for post football, like their lives after Clemson. How did you become involved in that? How long have you been involved in it, and what do you do?
Yeah, so Paul Journey to me is the greatest thing going on in college football right now. Paul Journey stands for passion about winning. It focuses on 3 areas of the guys' lives as professional success, philanthropy or community service, and then just their personal development. And it is just a tremendous visionary program that Jeff Davis and Coach Swinney have put together that allows the guys opportunities to really figure out what it is that they love career-wise so they can go be pros in something other than football. They've created micro internships with major corporations like Cisco and Adobe that allows the guys to go intern for, I think it's 1 week or maybe 2 in May, because that's the only time we have off. And the tough thing about college athletes is we have no time off. You have no time to internship. So if you don't go pro, you come to the end of your college career and you go apply for these jobs in corporate companies that don't understand the life of a college athlete are like, well, you have no experience. You haven't interned anywhere. You haven't worked anywhere. And you're like, well, I was a college athlete. I mean, I spent 80 hours a week, devoted to that. And it just doesn't bridge the gap for a lot of guys, unfortunately. And it's really tough for college athletes to get a job after college to overcome some of that, lack of experience that others are bringing to the table. So Paul Journey helps bridge that gap and bring employers in and gives guys tools, helping them interview and those internships and exploring different avenues. Rashard Hall, recently came back on and is helping oversee the career development for him. So I came back. I think Jeff Davis asked me to come back and speak to the team on a players panel that we had for the different industries we were in and transitioning and preparing for that transition and making the most of their opportunity. And then also part of that is just mentoring and being a mentor to guys on the team. And so I mentor a few guys on the team, and usually it starts with a connection and relationship, and we mostly talk about life, but if they're interested in real estate, we'll talk about real estate and stuff like that. And so Coach and Jeff and Rashard have been great, and I've been helping connect companies with the program to do the micro internships with. So it's really been great for me. It's personal, and I believe in it just because of when I was injured and having to figure out that next step after football, and giving my experience to the guys there now to make sure that they leverage their time there and the relationships that they build. But it's an honor that Jeff Davis and Coach would allow me to be a part of it and serve in a small way.
I think I was talking about this with Robert Smith a few months ago, and you alluded to it, is how hard it is to take that, when football is over, right? So like whether you're Taj Boyd, and a year after, you go from being a celebrity on a campus and in front of a stadium of 80,000 people, and like, okay, if you're a lawyer, if you're a writer, if you're a construction worker, it's not like most normal careers, you spent your whole childhood like dreaming of doing that. You probably discover that you want to do that in high school or college, and then you do it, and then you can do it until you're however old, 50s or 60s. That's when those people have to confront the end of their careers and what's next. That's retirement like age. Whereas a football player, a big-time football player, you've been the best player on the field through little leagues and middle school and then high school and then in college. Whenever it ends, whether you get to the NFL or not, you're confronting that conflict and that sort of that the end of something that is your identity at age 22 or 25, 28 or 18 in your case. Like, do people really grasp how traumatic that is for a lot of these guys?
I don't. The answer to that is no. And I think that's where, obviously, I think that's where a lot of depression comes into play. Even with the NFL guys that have played their whole career in Hall of Famers, but when the music stops and they have to figure out who they are past the crowd, is something that I'll talk with guys constantly. One of them, major name, major player, said, that's going through a transition, said, really, I envy you, JK, because you had to do this at 18, and so you've already gotten through it.
Wow.
And now I'm going through it. And, that kind of struck me because, I was going through it by myself at 18 when all my guys were living out their dreams. And so it's kind of hard because you felt like, the black sheep of the family, and nobody could really relate to it because everybody's in their heyday. And I didn't have anybody to turn to, other than the staff. But as I grew older and I saw the guys start careers coming to an end, it's like, oh, wow. That wasn't unique to just me. That's the pain of the transition. And, it is traumatic. And not to, put it up there with, there's much more serious, life-threatening events that, can happen to you. But it really is tough for guys to go from being on the pedestal, if you will, being in the forefront, being known as this person, this number, this almost character, if you will, and then to being just completely backstage. And so most of the guys won't talk about it, and they're, embarrassed or, too prideful to admit it, but it's really hard. And, CTE for real is a real thing. Not to get in that debate, but I also wonder, how much of this isn't serious depression from coming out of the game. And I think that's something that's hard for people to not understand if you haven't been through it. It'd probably be like a surgeon, a neurosurgeon that's top of his craft and is in a bad accident and can't use his hands anymore. It's just tough to relate to, but that's about what it's like for guys.
Yeah, and it's not like most of these guys mentally prepare themselves for the end, because it's like, of course I'm going to overcome this knee injury, Of course I'm going to make this NFL or of course I'm going to get drafted. And if you don't get drafted, of course I'm going to sign as an undrafted free agent and make this team. And then, man, when that, general manager or whoever comes down the hall and calls your name, you're not preparing most people are not mentally prepared for that at that point in their lives, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's what Coach Swinney and Jeff Davis and Paul Journey do a tremendous job of, is putting that reality in front of the guys and letting them go ahead and, sit on it and, think about it and go ahead and prepare for what they're going to do and what their plan is in place for when that does happen. And so that's the great thing about Paul Journey. But to what you're saying, absolutely, 90% of the guys are not thinking that, hey, it's going to get cut. Or I also think, the NFL is, just from seeing the guys go through it, it's not as attractive as we all dream of it being. It's a cutthroat business world, and it's tough, being undrafted or free agent and bouncing from this city to that city, and it can be a real tough life to plow, if you're not one of the top guys, that's a marquee player. It's not as glamorous as we all kind of dream it to be as kids, Really the pinnacle for football for me is high school and football, just the purity of it and the camaraderie with the guys. And I think when you add the real cutthroat business aspect to it, you treat it like a business. And so it's not the same thing you grew up enjoying. But that's just from the outside looking in.
Another way that the Paul journey is so impressive and meaningful is college football today generates so much money, right? And so tons of that money is going to recruiting the kids and then, lavishing the kids with all this stuff that they get when they're there. Well, not lavishing, not like in a spoil way, but you have the top training facilities and all this stuff to prepare you for the NFL, the ones that can go to the NFL, obviously a select few. But what the Paul Journey does is that is an investment in, like we said, what happens when football is over. And it really, at most places, athletes, and traditionally, big-time college football athletes are kind of disposable commodities, right? So once they're done, you move on to the next guys, right? And so it's up to them what they do with their degree, if they got a degree or whatever. And we don't really. The Paul Journey really dispels that whole idea, I guess, at least in Clemson's case, of not really caring about the athletes after they've moved on, right? I mean, is that the sort of part of the essence of it to you?
Yeah, I mean, and without a doubt, I mean, it goes to Coach, Sweeney's heart and Jeff Davis's heart. Coach always says, I'm not coaching your talent. I'm serving your heart, and I'm coaching the 30-year-old you. And he also has a quote out there, but he always says, if I win a bunch of national championships, but our coach men to become lousy husbands and fathers, I've been a terrible failure. And that's not like I say, it's not a recruiting pitch that sounds good in mama's living room. That's who he is, and it's genuine, and he puts his money where his mouth is with Paul Journey and the investment that's made there. And then I think now you have proof in the pudding with the Dandy Dozen that's, the furthest removed. And we love to come back. We love Coach. We love the staff. We'll sit and tell anybody how much they've helped us figure out life after football and be successful as men. And the tools that Coach Swinney and the rest of the staff have given us as, husbands and fathers and employees or business owners or whatever, has really paid off huge dividends. And it's not just a pitch. Coach Swinney's there for us, just like if we were, his prize quarterback now. We can pick up the phone and call Coach, and he would help us. If I text Coach, he always texts back. It's just who he is, and he really cares so much about each kid's heart. And he knows my boys' names and when they're born, and my wife Katie's name, and he knows all about us. And it's like, Coach, you got eyes and ears or something in my house. Like, but
his memory's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And, but that's just, that's just who he is. That's why he's special. And that's why the whole staff's like that. And it's just a real special group.
Is part of what you do with Paul's journey, is it keeping in touch with a lot of the guys who've moved on to the NFL? Or you just do that because the natural friendship that developed from
no, that's just natural friendship. And, the great thing about those guys, they're all, Coach Swinney has instilled in them, okay, enjoy your career and leverage your opportunities that you have right now, but prepare for the end. So, they're all trying to prepare and figure out and leverage the opportunity that they have for what they want to do in business. Because, use football as a means to an end, don't let it be the end. Clemson family and the Clemson brotherhood, that's all tight and close knit. But I think, the guys that are done playing and now in the business world have value to help talk to those guys that are still, crushing it in the NFL, but are wanting to be exposed and learn more about certain aspects and certain industries.
And you just, last weekend, you went up to Minnesota to see Mackenzie Alexander, right?
Yeah, we went up to the Vikings Saints game and hung out with Mackenzie. I love Mackenzie. Think of the world of Mackenzie. He's just a great guy, big heart, and really sharp, intelligent, and wants to make the most of his opportunity. And you remember his days at Clemson. Nobody will outwork Mackenzie, and he has that shutdown mentality, which I just love. Nobody's going to beat him, but really just his heart. He's just a special guy. He's got a big heart, and really happy for him and his success.
JK, is there anything we haven't covered that I might have missed?
I don't think so. I think you got it all.
Well, cool. Man, this has been great. I really appreciate you sitting down with us finally, and we'd love to have you back sometime.
That'd be great. And Larry, I love your stuff.
Thank you.
You always put out tremendous coverage, and the story you did on Coach Swinney, I think, was just absolutely amazing. I mean, I really, really enjoyed you putting that story out there.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thank you to JKJ for sitting down with us. Really interesting conversation there. Appreciate him sharing his time with us on a very busy weekend. It was his wife's birthday, so thank you to him. Also, thank you to our sponsors, title sponsor, Parham Smith and Archenhold Law Firm, for opening their doors on Saturday and giving us a place to interview. Get yourself a Clemson Dubcast koozie that Blake Smith was so kind to have made and is giving out. Thanks also to the Abernathy Boutique Hotel in Clemson on 93, a Trevor Lawrence throw from Death Valley, and Tandem Payment in Greenville. Really appreciate all the support that our sponsors have given us. Could not do it without them. Most of all, thank you all for listening. 60,319 downloads since we started this thing in late August, so really appreciate that. As always, next podcast scheduled to drop on Friday morning. So everybody have a great week and be safe. Cheers.